Today I am going to continue with another group of bacteria, of which one group is bacteria with gliding motility, and the another group is the rickettsias and chlamydias. Rickettsias and chlamydias. Okay, so moving forward with our today's bacteria, which is a bacteria with the gliding motility. At the name itself says the glide, okay, to glide, okay, bacteria with the which move with the help of gliding, which move with the help of gliding are termed as gliding motility, are termed as gliding motility. Okay, so this bacteria basically are termed as gliding bacteria due to its movement with the help of gliding. And the one group of gliding bacteria okay, and one of the most studied group in the case of gliding bacteria are mixobacteria, which form multicellular structures called the fruiting bodies and show life cycles involving intracellular communications. And the fruiting mixobacteria are classified on the basis of their morphological characters of the vegetative cells, mixospores, and the fruiting body structures. Okay, uh, in the later part of this lecture, I will show you what are fruiting bodies. And on the basis of phylogenetic characters, using 16S rRNA, 16S rRNA gene sequence analysis helps to differentiate with these different species of the delta proteobacteria. Okay, so what are fruiting bodies first of all? Okay, what are fruiting bodies? One of the salient features of fruiting bodies are basically is that the vegetative cells of some stage of grow swarm together in masses and forms fruiting bodies. Okay, and this property has some resemblance to that of slime molds, which are basically eukaryotic organisms. Slime molds particularly are a type of slime molds particularly are a type of fungi which produces slime. Okay, which produces slime. So what is its economical importance? Okay, as well as various other importance of the fruiting bodies. Okay, so the fruiting bodies of the mixobacteria vary considerably with the different types of other mixobacteria. Within the protein body cells, some cells are converted into mixospores. Okay, so the fruiting bodies are often colored and morphologically elaborate and can be seen forming moist pieces of on the decaying wood or the plant material with the help of simple hand lens even. Okay, so the fruiting myxobacteria. Okay, so the fruiting myxobacteria, please have a look of this fruiting body given here. These are the fruiting structures. Okay, these are the fruiting structures of the myxobacteria. Okay, these are produced by this bacteria. Okay, and these myxobacteria are generally found in decaying organic material and fresh water throughout the world. Although there are bacteria where many mixture never exist as a single cells. Okay, for example, and one of the most studied myxobacteria again, which is an Myxococcus xanthus, appear to be in hunt in packs. Okay, they are always found in the groups. Okay, not a single cell. And naturally this Myxococcus xanthus cells form several colonies which are spherical. Okay, which are spherical and can surround prey bacteria. Okay, prey means, okay, what do you mean by prey? Prey is basically a food for this bacteria. Okay, like we say a lion hunts on a lion hunts a deer, so deer in that case is a prey. Okay, and lion is the predator. Okay, similarly this can prey other bacteria also. Okay, and on the solid substrates other myxobacterial cells glide over a solid surface leaving the slime trails that are followed by the other cells. Okay, this is the reason why they have similar resemblance, with the other with the other slime molds. Okay, and when the food is scarce, the cells aggregate to form a mass, and cells within the mass differentiate into the fruiting body, which is seen here, that consists of a slime stalk and a cluster of spores. Okay, where you can see clearly the stalk here, and these are the basically spores. Now myxobacteria, the original photograph of a myxobacteria. Okay, this whole structure is of a fruiting body. Okay, and where the yellow ones here are the sporangium containing myxospores. Sporangium containing myxospores. Okay, where the yellow ones are basically spores. Okay, now the myxobacteria, they are gram negative bacteria and are rod in shape generally and have a gliding motility and the fruiting bodies and myxospores that resist basically desiccation, and they are found in soils with a neutral pH. Okay, it's not its normal salt range. Okay, what is normal salt range? It is around 0.51 or 2%. Okay, and the fresh water and as well as decaying organic material such as dung from the herbivore, rotting food and the tree bark. They are saprophytic. Okay, and globally they are present in various places and are abundant in warm, semi-dry and dry environments and tropical and temperate semi-deserts also. On the solid surface, these gliding bacteria produce swarms as they move over the surface of the agar plate, which leave a slime trail. Okay, in the last lectures in which when we had discussed bacillus. Okay, in that space remember the colony of Bacillus cereus. Okay, it's not a pure swarming colony. Okay, but similar to the colony will be similar to that one. Okay, which you can clearly see the spread of the growth. Okay, of the myxobacteria, and swarming is more evident on a lean media rather than rich media, and generally the colonies are bright colored. Generally the colonies are bright colored and the chemoorganotropes that can decompose many biomolecules. Okay, they are strictly aerobic and grow in neutral pH and are mesophiles. Requirements. Okay, they require minerals which are normally found in soil as well as in the fresh water. Now the next genera, which is again myxobacteria, but which is says myxococcus. It's a myxococcus. Now they are have the vegetative cells are slender rod-like with the tapering ends. They have a gliding motility, and the floating bodies contain refractile, spherical, and ellipsoidal microcyst. Okay, with a largest dimension up to about 2.3 micrometer. Microcysts are not enclosed in a sporangium. Okay, in this scenario, and on the solid surface, okay, colonies can absorb Congo red and are even resistant to the antibiotic penicillin also. Okay, but they are sensitive to the neomycin and tetracycline as well as the erythromycin. Tropism, Myxococcus, they are chemo-organotrophs, okay, which they are going to use any carbohydrates, organic compound for energy, as well as the carbon sources, They are strict aerobes, okay, and have a metabolism, respiratory type of metabolism. Okay, they cannot grow above 40 degrees Celsius. Okay, those which have been studied require amino acids and are capable of hydrolyzing protein, starch, even nucleic acid and various fatty acid esters. Enzymes, they generally produce non-cellulitic enzymes and are also known to lyse other bacteria, yeast and certain filamentous fungi. Okay, because as I told you that they can hunt other bacteria also. Okay, they can hunt other bacteria also. Okay, now the life cycle of Myxococcus. Okay, life cycle of Myxococcus. When the nutrients are more, Myxococcus xanthus grows vegetatively. However, when the nutrients are depleted, the exchange of extracellular signaling molecules triggers cell to aggregate and form a fruiting bodies, and most of the cells within a fruiting body become resting myxospores that will not germinate until the nutrients are available. Okay, so the life cycle, okay, which basically grows a vegetative growth, okay, simply only when there are enough amount of nutrients present in the medium. Okay, if under the unfavorable conditions they start to aggregate together, okay, and form a fruiting body. Okay, and most of the cells within the fruiting body become basically resting myxospores. Okay, resting myxospores, and they will germinate only, okay, these myxospores will generate only when there is a favorable condition. Okay, when there will be a favorable conditions. Okay, so again repeating the whole cycle, undergoes vegetative growth when the nutrients are available easily. If nutrients are not available easily, they aggregate or group together and form a fruiting body in which they produce myxospores, and all the myxospores are basically in the resting stage. Okay, are in resting stage, and these myxospores, when the nutrients are available, okay, they germinate to form a individual bacteria. Okay, individual bacterium. Now the life cycle of myxobacteria. Okay, this is an scanning electron micrographs taken during the vegetative growth, the aggregation and the fruiting body formation. Now you can see clearly the shape here of a Myxococcus xanthus. Okay, and when these cells aggregate and uh, start the formation of the fruiting bodies. Okay, where you can clearly see the fruiting body here. Okay, again I am repeating, these are the scanning electron micrographs of the Myxococcus xanthus, in which the first diagram is of a vegetative growth, okay, where you can clearly see the shapes, okay. The second diagram, which basically it's an aggregation of the cells, okay, and the third one is the basically a fruiting body formation, okay. Now other photographs of a, again this one, both this one and this one are the electron microscope images of the Myxococcus, where you can clearly see the fruiting bodies, as well as these both plates are the of the Myxococcus, okay, where you can clearly see the swarming, okay, where you can clearly see the swarming of the Myxococcus. One of the other bacteria which also produces swarming colony is a Proteus species. It's an Proteus, but the Proteus, it's not a gliding bacteria. It's not a gliding bacteria, but the Myxococcus, it's a gliding bacteria. The another one main property is its ability to form slime as well. Okay, to form slime as well. But in the other case, Proteus is able to swarm but will not produce fruiting body or the slime. The swarming of Myxococcus, further, it's a photomicrograph of a swarming colony about 5 mm radius of the Micrococcus xanthus on agar, okay, the swarming colony, okay. Now a single cells of Myxococcus fulvus from a actively gliding culture showing the characteristic slime trails on the agar, and the cells of Myxococcus fulvus is about 0.8 micrometer, is about 0.8 micrometer, okay. Now moving forward, the fruiting bodies of other species of Myxobacteria. These are the fruiting bodies of the Myxococcus fulvus. Please have a look. This one is a fruiting body of the Myxococcus stipitatus, and the last one is of Chondromyces crocactus, okay. Please have a look. Now the next one, Begoshells, okay, Begoshells. These are basically gliding bacteria, but they are not fruiting bacteria, okay. These are gliding but not the fruiting bacteria, okay. Staining, they stain gram negative, okay, and cells of varying sizes and mostly occur in the filaments, and filaments usually demonstrate flexing and bending and usually can be considered as distinct multicellular units, okay. So the motility, okay, they will undergo a gliding type of motility when in contact with a substrate, okay, when in contact with a substrate, okay, and these motor organisms glide over the surface in the slow wavy type of motion, okay. Till now no flagella or other motility organelles have been found in this scenario, and the gliding motility is usually in a direction parallel with the length of the filaments. Special structures, they are basically colorless, okay, chlorophyll, chlorophyll, phycobilioproteins or carotenoids are basically not produced, but they have the ability to produce sheath as well as the hold fast, What are sheaths and hold fast? We had discussed in our last lecture, okay. Begoshells, they are basically the specialized structures, okay. They are going to use sulfur, where sulfur will be deposited in the presence of hydrogen sulfide, and polybeta hydroxybutyric acid and polyphosphate often occur, and they may undergo chemoorganotrophic or chemolithotrophic type of nutrition. Okay, and mixotrophy is also observed in several of the organisms of this group, and they are aerobic to microaerophilic, having a respiratory type of metabolism, and are normally found in freshwater and marine environments and in the waterlogged soils and in the waterlogged soils. Okay, so one of the examples of these begonias is the Begonia gram negative. Okay, they are gram negative, and the gliding motility basically determines the nature of growth and colony formation on agar media containing a very few nutrients, and spiral colonies are also produced. Spiral colonies are also produced. They are chemorganotrophs or maybe even facultatively autotrophic, and some strains may also grow mixotrophically, and only a marine strain has thus far been proven to grow autotrophically. They may be aerobic to microaerophilic, similar to the begonias, okay, to the group which they belong. Internally stored sulfur may also serve as an electron acceptor for short-term maintenance in the absence of the oxygen. Growth factors are generally not required, but some require. Vitamin B12, hydrogen sulfide, or thiosulfate may be used as an electron donor for the chemolithotrophic metabolism. Okay, and the dinitrogen is fixed by a variety of strains. Acetate is oxidized to carbon dioxide, and all freshwater strains tested, and several C2, C3 or C4 organic acids, and sometimes this amino acid equalates are utilized even as a sole carbon as well as the energy source for their heterotrophic growth. They are oxidase positive and are catalase negative. Gelatin and starch are basically not hydrolyzed. Gelatin and starch are generally not hydrolyzed. Begonia, the temperature growth occurs between 0 to 40 degrees Celsius. Okay, till now no thermophilic strains have been reported. Okay, but it has been observed that Begonia may have been observed in the high temperature runoffs associated with the thermal springs. Okay, and the begonias are basically gradient organisms existing in a horizontal layers in the sediment sets and underlying anoxic sulfide liberating zones and the overlying oxic zones. They are found in freshwater, estuaries, marine strains are also known, and the high temperature runoffs associated with the thermal springs. Okay, what do you mean by estuarine or estuaries? These are the places where a river or and a sea meets. Okay, it's a place where the river and a sea or ocean basically intersects. Okay, these regions are generally rich in biodiversity. Now this one is a photograph of a Begonia alba. Okay, and please note the dark sulfur granules within the many filaments. Okay, some here it is visible. Okay, please note the granules here, dark sulfur granules, you can clearly see it. Okay, another one, a more good photograph of a Begiatoa. Please have a look. અહીંયા સ્પીડ મારે ઘટે છે, થોડીક સ્પીડ ઓછી થવા માંડી છે. Please have a look. Okay, moving forward. Okay, Begosia met basically in a methane sink. Okay, where you can clearly see the Begosias here. Now again, Begosias, and please have a look. Okay, please have a look at the video. You can clearly observe the gliding motility of the Begosia, where you can clearly observe the gliding motility of the Begosia here. Okay, please check the other Begosias also. Okay, okay. Next video again. It's of a gliding motility in the case of Anisonema. In the case of Anisonema. Okay, please have a look at the video. Okay, you can clearly see the function of the hold fast. Okay, where you can clearly see the function of hold fast as well as the stock. A trailing flagellum may act as a lever by which the cell may lift its anterior end of way for the support. Okay, please look at the calculation for your speed. It may be new for you. Okay, if you have not studied in your semester 1 microbiology, okay, we can calculate this one, but not in the lab at the HN Shukla College. Okay, the fact that basically it's not any sonema is not swimming, but actually it is gliding. But actually it is gliding. Okay. Now moving forward with our next group, with our next group with our which are rickettsias and chlamydias, which are rickettsias and chlamydias. Both these groups are basically obligate parasites. Both these groups are obligate parasites, and most bacteria are free living or parasitic forms that can metabolize and reproduce independent means. But these two groups, Rickettsias and Chlamydias, have adapted the life inside their host cells, where they are considered obligate intracellular parasites. Obligate intracellular parasites. Now, starting with the Rickettsias and Chlamydias, the examples of the Rickettsiaceae family include Scavidria, Coxiella, Ehrlichia, Neoricketsia, Rickettsia, Rickettsiella, Rochalimia, Wolbachia. Next family is an Bartonelliaceae, Bartonella, Grahamella. Next one is a Anaplasmoseae, A. Egyptianella, Anaplasma, Erythrozone, Hemo, Bartonella, and the last one is a Chlamydia. The Rickettsia, the group, okay, basically short rods in general. Characters of the Rickettsia are basically short rods and have a diameter of about 0.3 to 0.5 micrometer in diameter, and 0.8 to 2 micrometer in length. Okay, why I have focused on the size here? Because they are considered as one of the small bacteria. Okay, bacteria with a low size, very small size. They are gram negative, they are non-motile, and flagella do not occur. Okay, they are aerobic and have not been cultivated in the absence of host cell. In the absence of the host cell. So till now they have not been cultivated in the agar medium. Okay. In the natural cycle, basically involves a vertebrate and an invertebrate, where vertebrate can be human beings, animals, etc. Invertebrate can be insects. Okay, can be insects, etc. And the etiological agents of the human disease. Okay, some of the diseases which are caused by rickettsia, typhus, spotted fever, and the scrub typhus. Okay, so what is the difference between this three genus of the rickettsia, coaxella, and rochelinia? The first is the site of multiplication. Where do rickettsia, where do these three genus multiplies? First one, rickettsia multiplies in the cytoplasm, coaxella multiplies in the phagolysosome, and the last one multiplies in the exterior surface of the host cell. And the next one, it's an obligate intracellular parasite. Okay, these both two are obligate ones. This one not, it's not an obligate one. Okay, can be cultivated axonically. This both cannot be cultivated without the host. This can be cultivated without the host. Okay, only coxella produces spores, and human disease caused by rickettsia, typhus, scrub typhus, and spotted fever. And the coxella, basically human disease which it causes, it's an Q fever, and Rochelinia causes trench fever. And another common disease which are caused by rickettsia family, which are caused by the rickettsia family, are Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Okay, which is also known as tick fever sometime, but the more common name is an Rocky Mountain spotted fever. It's in Rocky Mountain spotted fever, where you can clearly see a vertebrate which includes human beings. Okay, which includes human beings, and another, the invertebrate ones, which include ticks. Okay, which are basically insects, invertebrates. The second one is an disease, is an scrub typhus, which is occurs by the organism Totsugamushi. Rickettsia tutsugamushi. The vector again, it's an mite. Okay, and the wild rodents and mites are the reservoirs. And the next one is an epidemic typhus. Okay, organism is Rickettsia prowazekii, and the vector is louse. Reservoirs are humans, squirrel, fleas, as well as flying squirrels. Next one is an murine typhus. Okay, occurs by Rickettsia typhi. Vector, it's a flea, reservoir, wild rodents. Q fever, next one. Organism involved is an Coxiella burnetii. There is no vector involved in the case of Coxiella. They are the reservoirs are cattle, sheep, goats, cats, etc. Okay, please have a look of a photograph of a Rickettsia prowazekii. This is not an actual photograph; it's an animated photograph. Okay, of a Rickettsia prowazekii. Okay, now actual photograph of the Rickettsia rickettsii. The actual photograph of the Rickettsia rickettsii. Okay, where you can clearly see the cells here of the Rickettsia. Okay, a thick hemolymph cell filled with the Rickettsia rickettsii, and the causative agent of the basically Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Okay, this one is an hemolymph. Okay, this one is an hemolymph, where the red ones here, if you can see, are basically Rickettsia rickettsii, and this bacteria are very small, with a range in a size from 0.2, okay, zero point 0.2 to, it's not millimeter, it must be millimeter, sorry, it must be micrometer, from 0.2 to 2.5 micrometer, 2.3 to 2 micrometers. Okay, now another photograph of the thick hemolymph cells. Okay, a more clear photograph, where again Rickettsia rickettsii can be observed. Okay, now rickettsias, for the more photographs of the rickettsia. Okay, basically rickettsia growing in a host cell. Okay, rickettsia basically are grown with the help of a tissue culture technique. Okay, where you can clearly see this one is the cells of the using a tissue culture technique, and which are infected by the Rickettsia rickettsii. And the B photograph is an electron micrograph of the Rickettsia papilliae within the blood cell of its host, and the host is beetle malantha. Okay, it's a beetle, and basically this bacteria grow inside a vacuole within the host cell. Okay, where you can clearly see the host cell, in which they grow inside the host cell. Okay, now the arthropod vectors which are involved in the rickettsial diseases. Okay, the first one is basically a louse. Okay, it's a louse, a female body louse, which may carry Rickettsia prowazekii. Okay, which may carry Rickettsia prowazekii, which is an agent of the typhus. Okay, and this body louse can sometimes even carry Borrelia recurrentis. Okay, which is basically an agent of a relapsing fever also. Okay, and also Bartonella quintana, which is an agent of a trench fever, and the given B, it's an American dog tick that carries Rickettsia rickettsii. Okay, please have a look at both the insects or both the vectors. And what are vectors basically? Okay, vectors are basically a type of carriers. Okay, which may which may help in transmitting the disease from a one person to the another, or more particularly from one host to the another host, okay, are basically called vectors, Now the next group, the chlamydia, and the single most studied in the chlamydia itself, the chlamydia species. They is 10 gram negative, and cell walls are similar in structure and composition to that of other gram negative bacteria, but in this case muramic acid is either absent, or if found, is basically found in traces, okay, in very low amounts. And there is a genus specific well associated a lipopolysaccharide antigen, okay, that contains 2 keto 3 deoxyoctanic acid like substances. Okay, what are antigens? Antigens are basically foreign substances which can accelerate, or which can particularly activate our immune systems, okay, and there are variety of antigens, okay, in various different types of bacteria, okay, and their purpose for us to identify the virulence as well as for the identification of this bacteria also. And the other special structures are the basically elementary and reticulate bodies, okay, which we have not observed in any of the bacteria till now, okay, presence of walls of elementary and reticulate bodies which exhibit a hexagonal arrays of the subunits which are on the inner surface and single patches of the hexagonically ordered hemispheric projections on their outer ones, okay. Tropism, basically this chlamydia rely on their host for high energy compounds and low molecular weight synthetic intermediates, and which they use to synthesize their own DNA or a RNA and a protein, and as well as small molecules specific to the chlamydia and are not made by the host cells. And till now, chlamydia has been not grown outside the host cells, okay, and they are basically grown in the only in the laboratory animals, yolk sacs of the chicken embryos, or in the cell culture lines, okay. So multiplication within membrane bound vacuoles in the cytoplasm of the host cell occurs by the means of unique developmental cycle, okay, by a change of small elementary into a larger reticulate bodies that divide by fission, and the cycle is complete when the reticulate bodies reorganize and condense into a new generation of elementary bodies which survive extracellularly. Morphology, they are basically coccoid organisms, okay, they are coccoid organisms with a size range of 0.2 to 1.5 micrometer, and the transition between elementary and reticulate bodies occurs, okay, of which the elementary bodies are 0.2 to 0.4 micrometers, which contain electron dense nuclear material and few ribosomes which are surrounded by a rigid trilaminar walls, whereas the reticulate bodies, which are the larger counterparts, having a size of 0.6 to 1.5 micrometer in diameter, okay, and as compared to the elementary bodies, reticulate bodies have less dense and fibrillar nuclear materials, more amount of ribosomes, and a thinner and more flexible trilaminar walls. And basically infectivity of the reticulate bodies for new host cells has still now not been demonstrated. They are non-motile. Now please have a look of a elementary as well as the reticulate body, where you can clearly see the elementary bodies here, okay, which are basically dense. So it appears darker colored. So it appears darker colored. Okay, please have a look at this. Okay, now these are the reticulate bodies. These are the reticulate bodies, okay, which are less dense, okay, and have a more size as compared to the elementary bodies, okay. And there is also an intermediate stage, okay, where an intermediate body can be also observed, where you can observe both a dense type of material, okay, and a less dense type of material also, okay. Now the life cycle of chlamydias, which takes actually ranging from about up to 48 hours, okay. It may take about 48 hours to complete a cycle of a chlamydia. Now it starts with the entry into the host cell, okay, as an elementary body, but not the reticulate body. Elementary body enters, okay, and a vacuole is formed, okay. And basically the host cell phagocytes the elementary body housing in a vacuole. And now what happens, the elementary basically reorganizes, okay, it reorganizes, and a reticulate body is formed. Now what happens, the reticulate body divides successively, producing multiple reticulate bodies, okay. And it derives nutrition from the host cell itself, and these reticulate bodies begin to convert back to the elementary bodies. And after the complete use of nutrients, these elementary bodies are released from the host cell, and the host cell finally dies off, okay. And again this elementary body can a new infect a new host cell, okay. So I'm repeating the explanation again. The infection starts with the elementary body of the chlamydia, which infects a healthy host cell, and the host cell basically phagocytes the elementary body with the housing it in a vacuole. But what happens now, this reticulate elementary body, okay, reorganizes and forms a reticulate body. This reticulate body starts dividing and producing a multiple number of reticulate bodies, and again reticulate bodies begin to convert back to the elementary bodies, and after the whole of the nutrition is acquired from the host cell, elementary bodies are released, okay. Elementary body is released, and which may further, okay, if the host cell is available, it may further infect the other host cells also, okay. So these are the three different species of the chlamydia, okay. Chlamydia trachomatis, chlamydia pneumoniae, and chlamydia stasi, okay. Where the structures basically, which are uh, basically inclusion morphologies, they are round vacuolar in the case of chlamydia trachomatis. In the case of chlamydia pneumoniae, they are round and dense, and chlamydia piscici, they are large, variable shape, and are dense. Glycogen in the inclusions, okay. In the case of chlamydia trachomatis, it is present, but in other rest of the both cases they are not present, okay. Elementary body morphology, trachomatis, it is round, and in the case of chlamydia piscici, it is also round, but in the case of chlamydia pneumoniae, it is pear shaped. Plasmid, okay, Chlamydia pneumoniae do not contain plasmid, rest both of them contains plasmid. In the case of host, humans are the host for the Chlamydia trachomatis, and for the Chlamydia pneumoniae, humans as well as animals. And the case of Chlamydia pisarci, they are birds. Okay, the mode of transmission from person to person, and even from mother to the infant, airborne, person to person, airborne, bird excreta to the human beings. Major diseases caused by this one, by Chlamydia trachomatis, is in trachoma, sexually transmitted diseases, and also infant pneumonia. And the Chlamydia pneumoniae, okay, is responsible for disease pneumonia, bronchitis, pharyngitis, sinusitis. And the Chlamydia pisarci, okay, which causes psychosis and pneumonia, okay, and pneumonia. Now please have a look of the fluorescence micrograph of the human cells, okay, which are basically red in color, okay, which are basically red in color, and the Chlamydia trachomatis, okay, which appear green in color, please have a look, okay, please have a look. Okay, thank you students for today. I'm ending my lecture today, and we have completed the bacteria with gliding mortality, rickettsias, and chlamydias, okay, rickettsias, and